In today's video, I'm explaining every underground structure in Minecraft, from dungeons that veterans still can't find efficiently to monuments that punish you for even trying to mine. And one structure at the end connects to a mechanic so broken that speedrunners exploit it in ways Mojang never intended. But first, we need to talk about a structure that's been hiding in plain sight since 2011, because what it teaches you about Minecraft's underground changes everything that comes after. The ancient city is basically Minecraft's way of telling you that some places were never meant to be found. These massive deep slate palaces sprawl across the deep dark biome at around Y-51, stretching roughly 220 blocks in every direction, and they're packed with skulk sensors, shriekers, and enough redstone contraptions to make you think some ancient civilization was way more advanced than they had any right to be. The cities first showed up in the 1.19 Wild Update, after months of experimental snapshots that had players theorizing about what horrors awaited them in the depths. When you finally find one, usually by following those creepy skulk veins that spread through the deep dark like some kind of infection, you're greeted with structures that look like they've been abandoned for thousands of years. There are central frames made of reinforced deep slate that you literally cannot break in survival mode, towering statues that seem to depict the warden itself, and pathways lit by soul lanterns that cast this eerie blue glow over everything. The redstone systems scattered throughout include hidden piston doors, lamp circuits that flicker on when you're not careful with your footsteps, and elaborate traps that show whoever built this place knew exactly what they were doing. But here's where it gets interesting, because the loot in ancient cities is some of the best in the entire game, and also some of the hardest to get without waking up the big guy. The chests contain echo shards that you need for crafting recovery compasses, disc fragments for the only music disc in the game that requires assembly, and most importantly, swift sneak enchanted books that let you move faster while crouching. That last one is exclusive to ancient cities and has about a 23% chance per chest, making it rare enough that you'll probably need to raid multiple cities to get one. There are also golden apples, enchanted golden apples, and various other goodies scattered around in icebox rooms, barracks areas, and those sauna-like structures with soul sand and blue ice. The whole place tells this unspoken story about ancient builders who either fled from something or built the city as a last stand against the skulk that eventually consumed everything. Fan theories connect the cities to the strongholds and suggest that the same civilization built both before something went catastrophically wrong, but Mojang keeps it intentionally vague. What we do know is that every shrieker you accidentally trigger brings you one step closer to summoning the warden, and after 4 triggers, you're dealing with a mob that can two-shot you even in full netherite armor. The strategy here is wool blocks to muffle your sounds, sneaking everywhere, and breaking every shrieker you find before you start looting, because nothing ruins a treasure hunt faster than a blind beast that tracks you by vibrations alone. But here's what nobody tells you about ancient cities. The loot is incredible, sure, but there's a reason Mojang buried them deeper than every other structure, and it's not just the warden. Keep that in mind, because the real danger reveals itself when you understand what those redstone circuits were actually built to do. Buried treasure is Minecraft's pirate treasure chest fantasy turned into actual gameplay, and it's probably the most straightforward underground structure on this list because it's literally just one chest buried under sand or gravel near beaches. You find these by looting shipwrecks or ocean ruins until you get a treasure map, which shows a big red X marking the exact chunk where the chest is hiding, and then you dig straight down in that chunk until you hit it. The structure itself appeared in the update Aquatic back in 1.13, the same update that overhauled oceans and made underwater exploration actually worth doing. Buried treasure chests spawn between Y0 and Y50 in beach biomes, and while Bedrock Edition includes a few extra shore types in the generation, Java and Bedrock are mostly identical here. The loot table is small but extremely valuable because every single chest is guaranteed to contain a Heart of the Sea, which is the core ingredient for crafting a conduit. You also get a 58% chance at diamonds, iron ingots, emeralds, and sometimes even enchanted leather tunics or iron swords, making it a solid early game boost if you're lucky enough to find a map quickly. What makes buried treasure interesting from a gameplay perspective is how it forces you to explore the oceans instead of just rushing inland toward caves and strongholds. You're essentially following a treasure map like an actual pirate, navigating by landmarks and chunk coordinates, and the payoff is immediate once you find it. The Heart of the Sea itself is crucial for late game ocean bases because conduits give you water breathing, night vision, and haste effects in a huge radius underwater, which completely changes how you build and mine in ocean biomes. It's also renewable if you keep exploring shipwrecks, so you can theoretically set up multiple conduit systems across different ocean monuments or underwater builds. The treasure chests themselves don't tell much of a story, beyond implying that some unfortunate sailor buried their loot and never came back for it, but they tie into the broader ocean exploration theme that 1.13 introduced. Shipwrecks often contain maps to multiple treasure locations, so you can chain together several digs in one trip if you're efficient about it, and the whole system rewards thorough exploration over random chance. Seems simple enough, right? Find map, dig hole, get loot. Except there's something strange about how these chests generate that speedrunners discovered by accident. Something that breaks if you know the coordinates. We'll come back to why that matters, but first you need to see what happens when Mojang takes that same treasure concept and scales it up by 1000%. Mineshafts are the OG underground maze that's been messing with players since beta 1.8 way back in 2011, and they're still one of the most common structures you'll run into while caving. These are sprawling networks of 3x3 tunnels held up by oak or dark oak fence supports, with broken rails scattered everywhere, cobwebs choking the corridors, and cave spider spawners tucked into random rooms that'll ruin your day if you're not paying attention. The generation system tries to create mineshafts in about 0.4% of chunks, excluding the deep dark, and they spawn between Y0 and Y60 in most biomes. The Badlands biome gets a special surface variant that uses dark oak wood instead of regular oak, and those mineshafts can generate completely exposed on cliffsides, which looks incredibly cool, but also means every mob in the area knows exactly where you are. Regular mineshafts connect to cave systems with wooden bridges that span gaps and ravines, creating these precarious walkways held up by fence posts and chain supports that were added in later updates. Inside the tunnels, you'll find minecart chests with some of the best early to mid-game loot available, including a 78% chance at rails, 14% chance at enchanted books, and almost 9% chance at diamonds. There's also melon seeds, pumpkin seeds, name tags, and the rare enchanted golden apple at just over 1% chance, which makes thoroughly looting a large mineshaft system extremely rewarding. The cave spider spawners are surrounded by cobwebs and usually tucked into small rooms that branch off the main tunnels. And while cave spiders are weaker than regular spiders, their poison effect can drain your health fast if you're not prepared with milk or armor. Mineshafts intersect with basically every other underground structure, creating these massive underground complexes where you'll find mineshaft tunnels cutting through stronghold libraries or ancient city outskirts. This overlap makes them crucial for navigation because the wooden supports act as natural landmarks when you're deep underground and trying to remember which cave system connects to which. They're also the only renewable source of cave spider spawners, which means you can set up XP and string farms if you're willing to deal with the poison, and the sheer amount of wood you can harvest from the supports makes them valuable even beyond the loot. The implied lore is that some ancient mining operation dug these tunnels searching for resources and then abandoned them when something went wrong, leaving behind the infrastructure and the spiders. There's no official story, but the community has folded mineshafts into the broader ancient builder narrative that connects strongholds, temples, and cities into one lost civilization. From a gameplay perspective, mineshafts have been a staple of the underground exploration loop for over a decade, and they've only gotten better as cave generation improved with the 1.18 update. Most players think mineshafts are just free wood and rails, and they're wrong. There's a generation quirk that connects mineshafts to every major structure on this list, and once you see the pattern, you'll never explore caves the same way again. Remember that detail about intersecting structures, because it's about to become critical. Strongholds are the endgame fortresses that gate your access to the end dimension, and finding one is basically a mid-game rite of passage that every Minecraft player has to go through. These stone brick mazes generate below Y50 in the overworld, featuring up to 50 different rooms that include libraries stacked with bookshelves, prison cells with iron bars, fountains, storage rooms, and the all-important end portal room that's the whole reason you're here. The structure appeared way back in beta 1.8 alongside mineshafts, and Java Edition generates exactly 128 strongholds per world arranged in concentric rings around spawn, with the first ring appearing at least 1,408 blocks away and subsequent rings spreading even further. Bedrock Edition throws that limit out and generates strongholds randomly with no cap, which means you can theoretically find infinite strongholds if you explore far enough. Both editions require you to use Eyes of Ender to locate strongholds, and those eyes fly through the air toward the nearest stronghold portal room when you throw them, creating this cool navigation mechanic where you're following magical projectiles through the landscape. Inside the stronghold, you'll find library rooms that are absolutely packed with bookshelves, and the chests in these libraries have a 14% chance at enchanted books and a guaranteed chance at Eye of Ender armor trims in 1.20 and beyond. The portal room itself contains a frame with 12 end portal slots, and you need to fill at least 10 of them with Eyes of Ender to activate the portal, though some slots generate pre-filled randomly. The silverfish spawners scattered throughout strongholds add danger to exploration, especially the monster eggs hidden inside stone bricks that release silverfish when you break them, and these infested blocks look identical to regular stone bricks until you hit them. Strongholds connect to the broader ancient builder theory because they're clearly designed as fortresses or escape routes, with defensive architecture and the end portal suggesting whoever built them was trying to flee to another dimension. Jeb from Mojang once mentioned in an old interview that they forgot to remove debug pillars from the original Stronghold generation, which is a funny behind-the-scenes detail that shows how rushed some of these early structures were. The progression path forces you to gather blaze rods from the nether and end ender pearls from Endermen, craft them into Eyes of Ender, and then follow those eyes underground until you breach into the Stronghold tunnels, which can take anywhere from 10 minutes to several hours, depending on your luck and preparation. The impact on gameplay is massive because strongholds are the only way to reach the end and fight the Ender Dragon, making them a mandatory structure for anyone trying to beat Minecraft. The loot isn't spectacular compared to ancient cities or trial chambers, but the libraries provide early enchanted books, and the structure itself becomes a navigation landmark once you've found it. Community strategies include using the F3 debug screen to pinpoint exact coordinates, mapping out the stronghold layout to avoid getting lost, and clearing every silverfish spawner before you start moving loot around. But if strongholds were built as escape routes to the end, why would the builders lock the portal and scatter the keys across 2 dimensions? That question haunted the community for years. The answer isn't in the stronghold itself. It's in what you find when you compare stronghold generation to the structure we're covering next, and the timeline doesn't add up the way you'd think. Trail ruins are Minecraft's archaeology structures that combine underground generation with surface clues, and they're all about brushing suspicious gravel and sand to uncover pottery sherds and other historical artifacts. These buried village remnants generate in taiga and jungle biomes with just the tops of their terracotta towers and mud brick structures poking above ground, and the real treasure is hidden in the suspicious gravel blocks scattered throughout the ruins. The structure was added in the 1.20 Trails and Tales update alongside the brush tool and the entire archaeology system, which was Mojang's attempt to add a slower, more methodical exploration activity compared to the usual smash-and-grab looting. Trail ruins generate in various configurations including tower clusters, road networks, and what look like collapsed buildings, all made from terracotta, mud bricks, gravel pathways, and those suspicious gravel blocks that you need to carefully brush instead of mining. When you brush suspicious gravel in trail ruins, you can find pottery sherds like the Howl pottery sherd and Sheaf pottery sherd that are exclusive to this structure, along with emeralds, wheat, clay balls, bricks, and occasionally the relic music disc, which is the rarest music disc in the entire game. The sherds themselves are used to craft decorated pots that serve as storage and decoration, and collecting all the different sherd patterns has become a completionist goal for players who want every decorative item. The implied backstory is that these were surface villages or outposts that got buried over time, possibly by the same civilization that built the strongholds and ancient cities, though Mojang keeps it vague enough that you can interpret it however you want. The structures don't have active mobs or traps, making them one of the safest underground-ish structures to explore, and the slow pace of brushing gravel creates this meditative treasure hunting experience that's completely different from fighting through a trial chamber or sneaking through an ancient city. From a gameplay perspective, trail ruins reward patience and thorough exploration because each suspicious block only drops 1 item and you need multiple sherds to complete the full pottery collection. The structures are relatively rare compared to mineshafts or dungeons, so when you find one, you want to brush every single suspicious block to maximize your loot, and bringing multiple brushes is essential because they have low durability. The archaeology system as a whole has been divisive in the community, with some players loving the slower pace and others finding it tedious, but trail ruins remain a unique structure type that adds variety to underground exploration. Archaeology seemed like a peaceful addition until players started noticing something in the loot distribution. The sherds you find in trail ruins appear in ocean ruins too, but corrupted somehow, like the same civilization built both and then one got destroyed. Why would the same builders who created elaborate pottery leave their villages to rot underground? The answer connects to our next structure in a way that suggests these weren't separate civilizations at all. Trial chambers are the newest underground structure in vanilla Minecraft, added in the 1.21 Tricky Trials update, and they're basically combat arenas designed to test your fighting skills across multiple connected rooms. These tough and copper mazes generate between Y-40 and Y0 in every biome except the Deep Dark, featuring trial spawners that activate when you approach and lock to your player count, vaults that require trial keys to open, and exclusive mobs like the Breeze that only spawn here. The generation system divides trial chambers into a 3x3 grid of chambers with names like Eruption Chamber, Pedestal Chamber, and Assembly Chamber, each with distinct layouts and challenges. You'll find parkour sections with rows of jump pads, combat arenas with multiple trial spawners going off simultaneously, and treasure rooms guarded by traps and locked vaults. The copper and tough blocks give the whole place this industrial ancient look, like some civilization built elaborate training grounds and then abandoned them, and the oxidization levels of the copper vary throughout the structure, adding visual variety. Trial spawners are the core mechanic here, and they're completely different from regular mob spawners because they activate when players approach. Spawn a set number of mobs based on player count, and then go on cooldown and drop loot once you've cleared the wave. The mobs can be anything from zombies and skeletons to cave spiders and silverfish depending on which chamber you're in, and each spawner tracks which players have completed it so you can't farm the same spawner repeatedly. Once you clear a trial spawner, you get trial keys or ominous trial keys if you're playing in ominous mode, and these keys are the only way to unlock the vaults scattered throughout the chambers. The vault loot is where trial chambers really shine, because you can get heavy cores for crafting maces, breeze rods that are exclusive to the breeze mob, flow and bolt armor trims, and a bunch of enchanted diamond gear. The ominous vaults, which you access by drinking an ominous bottle from an ominous trial spawner after entering with bad omen, have even better loot, including higher chances at enchanted golden apples and unique banner patterns. The mace itself has become a meta weapon because it deals scaling damage based on fall distance, letting you one-shot mobs and even players in PvP if you land a hit from high enough. Trial chambers also introduced the breeze, a hostile mob that shoots wind charges and knocks you around the arena, making combat way more dynamic than just circling a spawner with a sword. The wind charges themselves can activate copper buttons and doors, creating environmental puzzles where you need to use the breeze's attacks to progress through certain sections. The difficulty scaling based on player count makes trial chambers perfect for multiplayer, because the spawners will throw more mobs at a group of 4 players than they will at a solo player, keeping the challenge level consistent. Lore-wise, the story pitch from Brandon Pierce at Mojang described the builders as tinkery people who created these trials for unknown purposes, and the community has latched onto the idea that these were training grounds for ancient warriors preparing to fight the warden or some other threat. The chambers connect to aquifers and sometimes intersect with amethyst geodes, creating natural hazards like flooded rooms that add extra challenge to the combat. If you want to take your Minecraft knowledge even further and discuss strategies with other players, you should definitely check out our Discord server where we share seed coordinates, optimal looting routes, and everything else you need to dominate the underground. The link is in the description and we'd love to see you there. So the ancient builders created training grounds for warriors. Training them for what exactly? The warden, the ender dragon, or something else that never made it into the final game? That question becomes horrifying when you realize trial chambers generate at the exact same Y level as another structure. Not a coincidence. And what that overlap reveals about Minecraft's deleted content will make you rethink everything. Ruined portals are the broken nether gateways scattered across the overworld and nether, and about 50% of them generate underground, which qualifies them for this list. These damaged obsidian frames show up with crying obsidian mixed into the structure, netherrack or magma blocks around the base depending on biome, a chest with gold-related loot, and sometimes a gold block or two just sitting there waiting to be mined. The structure appeared in the 1.16 nether update as part of the massive nether overhaul, and they generate in every single biome with different levels of decay and vegetation overgrowth. The underground variants spawn at Y15 and above, typically breaking through cave ceilings or sitting in hollow pockets, and they range from tiny portals that are barely recognizable to giant variants that are 5% of the generation and absolutely massive. The biome determines what the portal looks like, so a swamp ruined portal will be covered in vines and have more mossy stone, while a mountain variant might be partially frozen or covered in snow. The chest that always spawns near ruined portals contains a 66% chance at a lodestone, 46% chance at obsidian, and various gold items including gold nuggets, golden apples, gold ingots, and golden tools. There's also flint and steel for lighting the portal once you repair it, making ruined portals a convenient fast travel option if you find one near your base. The crying obsidian blocks can't be used to make a functional portal, but they're valuable for crafting respawn anchors, which let you set spawn points in the nether. From a progression perspective, ruined portals are interesting because they can give you early access to gold and nether materials before you've even mined your first diamonds, and repairing one with regular obsidian gives you a nether portal without needing to mine 10 obsidian blocks yourself. The lore implication is that these portals were built by the same ancient civilization that made strongholds and trial chambers, but something went wrong and the portals collapsed or were deliberately destroyed, scattering crying obsidian and leaving behind the ruins. The generation variants include desert portals that are half buried in sand, jungle portals overgrown with vines, ocean portals that generate on the seafloor, mountain portals partially frozen, and swamp portals surrounded by mushrooms. Each variant has unique block compositions and decay states, and the giant variants are rare enough that finding one feels like discovering a major landmark. Community usage includes converting them into bases, farms, or decorative builds, since the crying obsidian and netherrack give them this eerie aesthetic that fits perfectly with certain build themes. Ruined portals are everywhere, and that's the problem. If these were escape routes, why are there hundreds of them scattered across every biome? Someone was building portals faster than they could use them, like they were desperate, or testing something. The crying obsidian is the clue everyone misses, and once you understand what it does versus what it was supposed to do, the timeline of Minecraft's underground structures completely inverts. Ocean ruins are the underwater structure remnants that generate in ocean biomes, and while they're technically underwater rather than underground, they often extend below the ocean floor and connect to underwater cave systems, making them relevant here. These stone brick or sandstone ruins come in warm and cold variants, with cold ocean ruins using stone bricks and prismarine, while warm ocean ruins use sandstone and terracotta, and both types contain suspicious sand or gravel blocks for archaeology. The structures appeared in the 1.13 update Aquatic alongside buried treasure and shipwrecks, completely transforming ocean exploration from empty blue void to actually interesting biome. Ocean ruins generate in clusters with multiple buildings at different sizes, ranging from single-room huts to larger multi-story structures, and they're inhabited by drowned mobs that spawn at higher rates here than in regular ocean. The drowned are dangerous because they can spawn with tridents and attack you from range underwater, and getting swarmed by multiple drowned while you're trying to loot a ruin is a common death scenario. The suspicious sand and gravel blocks in ocean ruins can be brushed for pottery sherds, including the angler pottery sherd, shelter pottery sherd, and snort pottery sherd, plus emeralds, iron axes, and other loot. The regular chests that spawn in larger ruins contain treasure maps, enchanted fishing rods, enchanted leather armor, and coal, making them decent early game loot sources if you can deal with the drowned. The warm variants tend to have more decorative blocks like terracotta and sandstone, while cold variants focus on stone bricks and prismarine, and both types include sea pickles and kelp growing on the structures. Ocean ruins tie into the ancient builder lore as coastal settlements or underwater outposts that got submerged when sea levels rose. Though, again, Mojang keeps the actual story vague. The drowned presence suggests that the villagers or builders who lived here either drowned and became zombies, or the structures were abandoned and later inhabited by drowned. And the fact that some ruins have intact roofs while others are completely collapsed implies different levels of decay over time. Gameplay-wise, ocean ruins are excellent for mid-game exploration because they're common enough that you'll find several in any ocean biome, the loot is decent, and they provide structure to underwater navigation, which can otherwise feel directionless. The suspicious blocks make them relevant for archaeology collectors, and the stone bricks from cold ruins are useful building materials if you're willing to mine them. The main challenge is managing your oxygen while looting, since you need to either bring water-breathing potions, use a respiration helmet and doors for air pockets, or set up a conduit nearby to make the whole process smooth. The drowned weren't always there. Ocean ruins generated empty and early snapshots, and Mojang added drowned later in development. Why would underwater villages need hostile mobs unless something happened to the villagers who lived there? The archaeology blocks suggest they tried to preserve their history before evacuating. The question is whether they evacuated up to trail ruins or down into what we're about to cover next. Shipwrecks are the broken sailing vessels scattered across ocean floors and beaches, and they're one of the best early game loot structures if you're exploring coastal areas. These wooden wrecks generate in 3 sections that can spawn separately or together, including the bow, stern, and midsection, and each section can be intact, damaged, or completely sideways depending on generation, with some shipwrecks even spawning completely upright on beaches. The structures launched in 1.13 with the Ocean Overhaul, and they generate in all ocean biomes plus beaches and rivers, using different wood types based on biome, with oak being most common. The generation can create shipwrecks that are half buried in sand, wedged into coral reefs, or sitting on their side in deep ocean trenches, and the random orientation makes each wreck feel unique. Some shipwrecks are pristine with all 3 sections intact, while others are just a few planks scattered on the seafloor, and the variation keeps ocean exploration from feeling repetitive. Each section of a shipwreck can contain a chest with different loot tables, and this is where shipwrecks become extremely valuable. The map chest in the stern or bow section has a 100% chance to contain a buried treasure map, which leads you to those guaranteed Heart of the Sea chests we covered earlier. The treasure chest can contain iron ingots, gold ingots, emeralds, diamonds, lapis lazuli, and sometimes enchanted gear, while the supply chest has food, TNT, and gunpowder. Finding a fully intact shipwreck with all 3 chests is rare, but gives you massive early game resources, and chaining together multiple shipwrecks in one ocean can set you up with enough maps to hunt buried treasure for hours. The implied story is that these were trading or exploration vessels that sank during storms or attacks, leaving behind their cargo and the drowned crew that sometimes spawns nearby. Some shipwrecks generate with TNT in the supply chests, which has led to community theories about naval battles or desperate attempts to scuttle ships before they fell into enemy hands, but there's no official lore beyond the environmental storytelling. The different orientations and damage states suggest different sinking scenarios, with upright wrecks on beaches implying they ran aground, while sideways deep ocean wrecks probably capsized in open water. Gameplay strategies involve bringing bringing water-breathing potions or turtle helmets for extended underwater exploration, checking the map in each wreck to see if it leads to buried treasure you haven't found yet, and looting the treasure chests first since they have the best general loot. The wood from shipwrecks can be useful early on, and some players farm multiple shipwrecks for easy oak planks before they have a tree farm set up. The TNT is great for mining or pranks, and the enchanted gear occasionally includes useful items like fishing rods with luck of the sea or armor with protection, maps to buried treasure, broken ships, entire fleets scattered across oceans. This wasn't trade gone wrong. This was an exodus, and if you follow those treasure maps to their logical conclusion, they all point toward the same ocean biome, the biome where our final structure waits, the structure that ties every underwater ruin, every shipwreck, and every drowned mob into one civilization-ending event. Ocean monuments are the massive prismarine temples that generate in deep ocean biomes, and they're the only place to find guardians, elder guardians, and sponge rooms. These structures are absolutely huge, spanning over 50 blocks in every direction, with a complex interior layout that includes treasure rooms, sponge rooms if you're lucky, and 3 elder guardians that give you mining fatigue when you get close. The monuments appeared in 1.8, and they're one of the most visually striking structures in Minecraft because the prismarine blocks have this animated texture that makes the whole building look alive. The generation requires a deep ocean biome with enough water depth, and monuments always spawn with 3 elder guardians placed in specific locations, 1 on top and 2 in the wings. These elder guardians are mini bosses that inflict mining fatigue 3, which makes breaking blocks take literal minutes instead of seconds, forcing you to either kill them first or use milk to remove the debuff repeatedly. Inside the monument, you'll find regular guardians spawning constantly, and these laser shooting fish are dangerous in groups because they can focus fire you from multiple angles. The treasure room at the center of every monument contains 8 gold blocks, which is decent loot but not amazing compared to other structures, and the real prize is the sponge rooms that have a chance to generate. Sponge rooms contain wet sponges that you can dry in a furnace and then use to clear water, making them incredibly valuable for underwater building projects or draining the monument itself. The elder guardians drop prismarine shards, prismarine crystals, and wet sponges when killed, and each monument only has 3 elder guardians that don't respawn, making the sponges a limited resource unless you find multiple monuments. The mining fatigue mechanic forces you to approach monument raids strategically, either by gearing up with potions and good armor to kill the elders first, or by using TNT and end crystals to blast through walls since explosions bypass mining fatigue. Some players drain entire monuments using sponges from the monument itself in an ironic twist, and the prismarine blocks become an unlimited building material once you've cleared the guardians. Lore-wise, ocean monuments don't have much backstory beyond being ancient underwater temples, and the community has speculated they were built by the same civilization as strongholds, or that guardians are magical constructs left to protect something valuable. The architectural style is unique in Minecraft with its symmetrical wings, central chamber design, and elaborate internal passages, and the sea lanterns throughout the structure provide both light and decoration. The guardians themselves seem to be purpose-built defenders rather than natural mobs, and the elder guardian's ability to inflict mining fatigue through walls suggests some kind of magical or technological power. Ocean monuments are endgame content because you need good gear, potions, and ideally a conduit to raid them effectively, but the payoff is permanent access to sponges, massive amounts of prismarine for building, and the satisfaction of clearing one of Minecraft's most challenging structures. The fact that guardians and elder guardians only spawn in monuments makes them required for certain farms and mob collection projects, and speedrunners sometimes use monuments as landmarks for ocean navigation since they're visible from far away. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more on Minecraft, click the subscribe button.